All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this week's Marketcast call. Hope everyone is doing well. If you can hear me, just always want to do a little mic check here, just to make sure. So if you're here, just don't be shy. It's hard for me to move forward if nobody responds. Thank you. How about everybody else? Everybody else doing well? Everybody's quiet. Long weekend. Olympics hangover. All right. Good morning to all of you as well. Good, good, good. Nice and sunny Brooklyn. Yeah, we've had some pretty nice weather here lately. Beautiful weekend. No rain, no 90-degree heat. So it's good. Good, good, good. Give everybody another minute or two here to get on board with us. Kind of a pretty blah. Not a whole lot happening overnight and this morning. Here's a stock to throw in your list, by the way. I found this one yesterday doing my whatever nice little trend line to keep an eye on. And you can kind of see the 140 level running through here. Resistance, support, resistance, back to support, back to support. So something to keep an eye on if you're looking for a good setup. One of these two is breaking eventually, right? Cloudy Toronto. Where's everybody else from? Anybody? Oh, we got Brooklyn. We got Connecticut with Larry. Appreciate everybody taking the time to wake up this early. Got Toronto. Anybody else from outside of the U.S.? Got Remy, Minneapolis. Remember way back in the day when we did kind of like one-on-one coaching way back at Adamish Trading Group. We coach people from all around the world. Never did a full and final count, but I had worked with somebody in at least 30 different countries. I don't know what T3's reach is. I know they're much bigger. Literally, it's in the name T3 Global. Got New Jersey. Oh, I know where Lloyd's from. Atlanta. All right. All right. I think that's enough time. Let's go ahead and get into the market here. Obviously, last time we were talking, the market was getting ready to open up down 4% or so. Nasdaq was the futures had been down as much as 7% in the overnight, right? So a little bit of a surprise there, I would assume. Um, I don't think it was much of a surprise to think that we might be moving lower on Monday based on what we had seen the previous, not only 2 days, but also the previous weeks, right? We'd had the breakdown. And then, our expectation had been for 2 weeks leading or a week and a half leading up to it that we'd probably be moving lower. But I don't know that any of us were expecting to wake up to, that little gem. And wasn't looking good last Wednesday, right? As you can see here, you can kind of see that selling pressure come in on Monday, come back in on Tuesday, and then complete down reversal there on Wednesday. Certainly looked like, okay, here we go, back down. And then nope, Thursday was a little bit of a surprise. I wasn't really thinking we were doing that, but let's also keep in mind if by chance, we are in a um, entering a phase of higher volatility of some kind, we're going to get whipsawed around. We're going to get flipped all around and fake outs and reversals right and left, right? So, no real surprise if that's where we're headed. But volatility dying big time last week after Monday. And you can see here, at least looking at the S&P, we're kind of regaining a level that over the past few months had been a level of interest. Um, and you got the NASDAQ here, the NASDAQ 100, same thing. Barely getting back above that 18.5, 18.4 area that we had discussed that goes back to the highs from March and April. All right, so you can follow along right here. So regaining it, but similar, where nasty little drop on Monday, got some of it back, and then just kind of grinded our way higher. If I remember correctly, let's see. I remember who it was. Maybe it was. I guess it doesn't matter. Neither here nor there. Now, if I were to look at this just on its surface, I would say to myself, it really doesn't look like this is a sell-off that's over. Um, Coming into this week, I would think a little bit higher. We did regain those levels. We did follow through Thursday's nice turnaround, so I would think higher. But as of right now, I don't know that I'd have any reason to believe that this sells. So if I just looked here, right, and I just looked, whatever here on the S&P and the Dow, kind of looked the least stellar. Not a whole lot there. Market ultimately ended up being flat, so seems like a lot of firepower being used, um, just to get back to break even to start the week, right? But let's pan out a little bit further. Take a look at some weekly candles here, right? Awfully nice look right there on the NYSE. Although I don't know that it's the end and be all. If we look back just in the last year, we've had one other time like this where a similar candle, all we did was fall for the next 2 weeks, although the low was in, right? Close right here, and we fell the following week. Okay. Still, in both those scenarios, the low was in, you know? So real nice turnaround. The S&P, nice turnaround. Okay. Last time we had a nice turnaround like that, you can see back here, led to some good things. Okay. Let's take a look at the NASDAQ. These are all the weeklies, right? The bigger picture. We pan out a little bit. I mean, you got to like that look. Certainly, bulls, in theory, you could say won the week, but, from much lower levels. Okay. In other words, it's not like here or even back here, a nasty little drop to start the week. The week ended up kind of finishing where we started. But, you got to like the way those weeks look. If you look at, you're going to see a similar type of look here on the NASDAQ futures that you saw on the NYSE. Okay. So some pretty good looks on the weekly, so I guess it just depends, what we see here. The weeklies, nice bullish look. Similar, as I just mentioned with the NYSE, if we go back the last time the NASDAQ futures put in a bar like that, we didn't go higher. We actually fell for the next 2.5 weeks or so before finally going, but it wasn't the end, right? So, the weeklies look good, but, certainly not the end and be all. And when I look at that compared to the daily as well, so far, I just don't know that it gives me all the warm and fuzzies that I'd be shouting from the rooftops, buy, buy, buy. So for me, at least, Some people might be ultra bullish right now. Some might be ultra bearish. For me, it's kind of like a tie. You know, I think regaining these levels is a plus, and um, specifically on the S&P and Nasdaq. So coming into the week, those of you that are in my coaching program know that we discussed being cautiously bullish uh, coming into the week. So, but just don't be surprised if we are rolling back over. If the path is to eventually roll back to the downside, I would think S&P will try to make a run up here at 5,400. That might be your next most ideal spot to potentially roll back down, and we'll see. Like I said, I'm not overly. Hey, Eric. Good morning. Good morning. And then we'll take it from there. That's what's great when you look at the time frames, at least in the trade services that I operate. We keep it relatively short, and that allows us to take it level by level, right? So we don't have to worry about going out months or year or what's going to happen next month necessarily. If we can just get it right this week, we're going to do very well. Like we did in prime time this week, we had a great week. Options Gambit, we had a good week. Back to back great weeks with prime time. So prime time has been kind of crushing a nice open house, which I'm sure we'll probably do. I don't know, a couple months we'll do it again, but open house went really well. How many of you attended the open house, or did anyone attend the open house? Other than real, actual primetime members, but anybody take up that opportunity? I don't know how they promote these things, so maybe nobody, maybe nobody here, but it was good. It's a good week. It's nice to have a winning week like that. Uh, so that's how I kind of look at the market here. And let's see. Let's go ahead and one of the trades we came into this week still, and this is with smart trades, is gold. Very frustrating here as far as like we are moving higher, we are doing what we expected, but we're certainly taking our time. And obviously, when you're trading options, time isn't necessarily on your side as a buyer. So um, we're moving, but I don't know if we're going to be moving as quickly as we might need to here to accomplish anything. So we'll see um, how that goes. But our forecast on gold for a while has been for higher, specifically, once we broke through a few levels back here. You may recall, um, gold definitely giving us some fake outs here and there, that's for sure. But if you kind of really look back, right, this area was a key point with gold, and this was kind of the shot across the bow, the popping through there, pulled back, and then of course did it again. Right now, we're taking it wrong at a time. This consolidation certainly reeks of moving higher, right? So that's what we're doing now. But we get these little pullbacks along the way that can be obviously very frustrating, right? So as we are consolidating, you can see perfect bullish wedge took that out, right? So gold's been pretty good about forecasting its higher move, but these little pullbacks along the way have, made it a little bit more annoying, I guess I'd say, than we'd like it to be. So. Um, But we still got plenty of time. We went out pretty far on this anyway, but certainly wouldn't mind, um, kind of picking up the pace here. At least maybe getting up to 2,600 area would be kind of nice. But that's gold. Like I said, we've got a way. Good one. I got a few some new people on here, which is nice. But oh, by the way, so I don't forget. Let me see. Hold on, real quick. I just want to check some dates. Um, about once a month, we do invite a couple. We do bring a couple new students into my coaching program. So not too many, not too often. Very very unique coaching program in that it includes everything. Education, coaching, trade ideas, trades, support, you name it, all in one. And it's a one-time investment and you're in. If anyone's interested in hearing a little bit more about that, if you haven't already, Right here's a link for you. That call is going to be next week. So plenty of time. Everybody see that link, by the way? So that'll be the link for. I just want to make sure that people see that my my comment there. Everybody see that link? All right, cool. Just making sure. And it's pretty casual, pretty laid back. It's just me, not a big, huge, pitchy, salesy person, but I do like to invite a few people in every month. So if you want to hear more about it, hop on and we'll chat and we'll talk stuff and some things. Otherwise, looking at individual stocks, obviously anyone's been following and or listening to me for a while, huge fan of we rise and fall with the market. So, you look at half or more of a stock's movement will be dictated by the market itself, right? And the next biggest factor is, the sector itself. And the biggest factor for that sector is the market, right? So you can't get away from the fact that as the market goes, probably not going to see too many stocks that don't look like this and this from last week. Not that they don't exist, but as a general statement, if I pulled up stocks, if I went down this list, right, starting at the top, Google looks like this, back up. Now, Google was falling before, but it had earnings. Apple, right? Fall off a cliff. Then there's the recovery. Okay. So most stocks, there's the Thursday, Friday, Wednesday sell off, less than stellar recovery, right? So when we look at stocks, it's, I don't lean as much on, hey, let's look at this stock as much as let's look at the market. What do we think the market's going to do? Of course, in most environments, there's some stocks moving higher, even if the market's moving lower. Not always. Obviously, Monday, as all of you saw, my entire watch list was red from top to bottom. Just like on Thursday, my entire watch list was green. Okay, but I'm sure somewhere out there, right, there was going to be some stocks that were down on Thursday. There was probably some stocks somewhere that was up on Monday. All right, but as a general statement, those 2 days kind of proved the point. Okay, and even Tuesday, right, and Wednesday proved that point that my entire watch list was green or mostly green on Tuesday and Wednesday at one point, and then they ended up, you know, a lot of red on Tuesday and almost all in red on Wednesday because the markets reversed lower. So for me, it always, that's always the big thing is that if I don't think higher, then I'm not going to get here and get loaded up on call positions or bullish plays of any kind. Just like if I don't think lower, I'm not going to go running around. And that's where obviously we can end up being in strangles quite often, just trying to play both sides of it. So when I look at the market coming into the week, um, like I said, cautiously bullish here. The weekly candles look great. As you can see, not a whole lot happening, right, since Friday closed to now. So we're not going to see a whole lot of action here, apparently, to start the day. Remember, go back to the VIX here. It's been a while since we've seen something like that. As a matter of fact, only 3 times in history have we seen, VIX spike like this. So if you weren't here for last week's call, we covered this. You go back. Um, pretty rare day we had there, right? You look back. Now, granted, this was a period of time, right? So these are weeklies. So this, we had in a week here where we put up, but this is all the same event, so to speak, the financial crisis here, multiple weeks. So, but if you look back, we've only had 3 other times in the history of the VIX where we've spiked to this type of a level. So I don't know about all of you, but certainly didn't see that coming on Monday. That wasn't on my, as they say, my bingo card. So doesn't mean anything, doesn't mean nothing. You know, picture speaking 1,000, whatever 1,000 words, whatnot. As you can see, when the VIX spikes to this level, more often than not, right? Uh, I would say this adds a little bit of evidence to the idea that the sell-off might be over. Okay, um, and again, especially when you look at the weeklies. Okay, you can kind of see where the VIX kind of bottom down here. Anytime you get near the 12, it's about where you commonly see the right, that general area. So for me, let's poll the audience, right? We've looked at the dailies, we've looked at the weekly, right? How many think that the Monday low is in, that the low is in, and that was it? How many think the low is not in? Yes, I think it's in. No, I don't think it is. Remember, that's what makes a market. CMT or not, I don't know anymore what this market is going to do than any of you, right? No one does. Okay, we take the analysis in front of us and say, okay, right? We look at the daily. I'm not too terribly thrilled with that as far as getting too bullish. I look at the weekly. That looks kind of nice. I look at the VIX dying. But the interesting thing about the VIX is that when everybody looked back here, this was the Friday before. And I remember many attendees or members pointing this out. I was like, it looks like whatever. I'm like, well, referring to this VIX spike. I'm like, yeah, but we don't really know until after. And then boom, here comes Monday, right? Not that I called Monday, although I did think lower, but we thought that for weeks. So most people think, no, the low is not in. What about everybody else? Low in, yes. Low in, no. What do you think? Looks like the overwhelming belief is no. Again, if I just focus on this, it does not look like the low is in. But if I look at those weeklies, pretty good case to be made. I don't know. I don't know if there's a good case. What was the one we just looked at? Was it the S&P? What were we looking at where it's like, well, let's pan out a little bit though. Let's look at the weekly. We looked at a year only. Let's pan out, right? Here's the S&P, right? Nice little multi-week sell-off. Here's a nice big reversal. Difference here is like we just don't have that big gap lower. Same thing here, right? Same thing here. This was a gap up this week, right? So we don't really have much to compare this to. This nasty little gap down. Here's the reversal out of COVID. So, not a whole lot there. No, I think it was the NASDAQ we were looking at. Okay, yeah, this one. Nice little hammer, right? Nasty little sell off. And if you look back, not a very big sample size, right? We got this one, and the low was not in. And I remember this one too, by the way. I remember every bull and their grandma coming out saying, low is in. I'm like, Mike, yeah, there's a case to be made. Certainly, I'm not going to argue with you. But I don't know. I don't know if it is. Now, the reason why we thought that, well, let's go back to our buddy the S&P and the breakout of this channel. Okay. This seemed like to us that, hey, I don't know. It might be. Certainly could be. And then back down we go. So I don't, know. We are in a bull. I don't know that there's any reason to believe that we're not. So we got, okay, let's add that into the pro con list, right? So we would probably air who has control. The bulls do. Just the overall trend, right? So yeah, my point is this, for me, I look at these factors and I look at all this and I'm not overly confident that the low is in or out. I just know when I look at this looks like something's still going lower if I stick to the daily. I look at the VIX, I look at the weeklies, a bull could make that case, right? And you want to look at it, because, I'm sure all of you have come across the bull cheerleaders and the doom and gloom bears, right? Everything's always sunshiny and wonderful for the bulls, always trying to call the low, right? Bears didn't think. What you always want to do is look at things as neutral as you possibly can, right? And not have a bias if possible, as far as, you ever see those guys that are constantly calling for the top? It's always the top. This is always going to be the top, right? The doom and glooms. And the same thing when you get the bulls, right? Wanting to call every single low. What you want to do is look at it and say, all right, if I was not overly bullish or bearish either way, what would I think right here? So for me being fair, I think you could call it either way. There were some stocks we looked at that I thought Boeing here looked kind of bearish. You can kind of see really struggling in that rally. Okay, obviously that earnings. Look at that 170 level. Like it knew my little green line was there. Okay, So what you can do is you don't necessarily have to put on like strangles on every stock. What you could do is kind of what I call strangle the market by puts on something looking bad, maybe looking for calls, something looking good. Okay. Um, Boeing here was really struggling to move higher, um, and is below that level of 170. Okay, so it could very well be a good time to look at puts. If you break above 170, there's your exit on those puts. We looked at this, just kind of starting. This was on my screen. Nice trend line there, right? Market found its low right where that line was, right? So just always remember when you have good trend lines, when you have good levels, it's not me, the analyst, drawing them. The market is doing it. Okay. So go back to Dell as an example. Dell tested this trend line. If we just count individual swings here, one, two, three, four, 5 times. That's not me doing that, right? That's the market paying attention and drawing this line for me. Okay, so when we get the market doing that for us, that's pretty valuable information because it tells us obviously how to react. We want to find these prices that stand out, these lines or these levels that stand out. Okay, not looking for support and resistance. Okay, we're looking for prices that are a little bit more important than that, that really kind of stand out. Okay, you look where Dell found support. We're right back at this. This line has been on my chart since I can remember, right? Because that was the old breakout point. Voila. Okay. We fell below this, I would think good shot of going to 80 because these prices are more important than others. They're not just some random support somewhere. Okay. This is a random support. Who cares? I want prices that matter a little bit more. And when we find those, keep in mind the market is doing that, not me. I don't make this thing, stop every time it got down to this green dotted line. Okay. So so if we're looking for bearish stuff, I thought Boeing looks sketchy. Tesla can't seem to buy a move above that 200. So I think you can clearly see that. Could be something there. I like Tesla's volatility. We threw this on in Paragon. And then I'm sitting there talking about how this thing has not moved less than $10 in a day, except for like right here, you know? And then, of course, we get the day it's not moving $10 in a day. So figures. But pretty good mover. So if you are looking to play both sides, like we do quite often, it is kind of a something that's been kind of mainstay across any of my services, and my coaching program included. It has its own built in. It's included in the coaching, right? So we kind of do it there too. So if we feel it's right, you want the volatility to be right, okay. On the individual security, otherwise Tesla kind of fits that bill, but always remember the premiums are going to reflect it. So it's not as easy as just, hey, I'm going to throw on a strangle, right? Who else did we look at last week? Was it ASML? Who was that? ASML being back above the 850. Okay, the break below this 850. All right, we got all the way back down here. Now we're holding this. Could be something to look at. I think it was CRM ended on a good note. Yeah, CRM really kind of looked better than some. And I like the regaining of the 250 mark here. So if markets, right, circle back, if markets move higher, okay, then we could see CRM getting right back up here to this 266 to 267 area, right? You can kind of see the highs back here are more like, the 266 here and here. But you look at this breakdown area, it sure looks like more like 267. So if we can get the wind at our back and market wants to keep going, this could be a great play for a run to here, right? So I think those are the two. CRM. We had another bullish play. We talked about it on Friday. It was CRM and gotta think about who this was. Was it PGR? Yeah, PGR. That was it. Here's the one I thought looked kind of nice too. Nice solid close. Seems to be ready to kind of maybe move up higher. Otherwise, oh wow, look at that. I guess so. Never mind. So those of you, so we talked about this in my coaching program last week. So we didn't put it on, unfortunately, in the program, but members usually do with the trade idea. So a nice little jump. And then who was our other guy? CRM. Yeah, so a little bit. Basically, a little mixed bag here. Not really a surprise considering the market isn't doing a whole lot. But we look at the last message that was sent to us. And that's Friday. Look at the S&P. Look at the Nasdaq regaining these two levels. All we can say is right now, based on what the market's showing us, looks like we want to move higher. Right. That's about it. If we fail and we come back and close back below, then we'll probably look at moving lower and probably not only maybe testing the low, but maybe even taking it out. But for now, hey, everybody, path is up. And obviously, on this call here, we'll recap it on Monday next week. Those of you that uh, want to tune in for the my little coaching program breakdown. Again, it's more just me kind of showing you all about it, showing you what we do, and it's kind of cool since it is all inclusive and you never have to make another investment into it again. So that link, as you can see, is right up there. I'll remind everybody next week. Otherwise, obviously, tons of calls every week. We got, for those of you already in my coaching program, we got our calls today. We got two of those. We got smart trades tomorrow and prime time and Gambit. We got prime time every day, right? So I'm sure I'll see many of you on a lot of other calls. Everyone else, thanks for tuning in. Appreciate it as always, and I'll see you next Monday.